What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of TSX Knowledge. Today's video I'll be showing you how to wire up and install the OEM rear fog light on the first generation Acura TSX. Here are the tools we're going to be using: a crimper, a wire stripper, needle nose pliers, wire snipper, ratchet, 8, 10, 12 socket, extension, plastic trim removal tool, 7440 pigtail, butt connectors, 10mm bolt, a mini add-a-fuse, zip ties, an 0405 fog light harness kit that will come with the wires and switch right there. And you're going to need your fog light of choice. Here I have an 0608 left hand drive and an 0405 right hand drive. The wire is going to be a little bit longer for right hand drive, but I'm going to be installing this left hand drive one in my car today. Even though my car is an 04, I'm going to be converting all the taillights to 06 in the future, so that's the one I'm going to be going with today. So starting out, I'm going to be unboxing the fog light package I got. So this is a complete 0405 front fog light installation aftermarket kit, and the reason why we're buying this is because, in my opinion, it gives you the most amount of parts for the least amount of money. You're not going to be using the front fog lights in this rear fog light installation, of course, but you're going to get a pretty complete harness along with zip ties and bolts, and that's pretty much stuff that you'd have to buy separately but would come in this kit. And I paid about $30 for this entire box right there, so I think that's a pretty good deal for just the wiring I need to install this kit. So to begin the process, I'm just going to start unraveling the harnesses, starting with this main one. So I'm just going to cut this plastic tie there and just start to unravel it piece by piece. It looks a little complicated at first, but hopefully by the end of this I'll have explained it pretty well and you'll be able to install it on your own car. So you can see here, this harness has a red connector at the end, and it plugs into this female connector on the other harness for the switch. So in the front fog lights, this harness would go to the firewall at that point in time to go inside the cabin, and we don't really want that in this case because we're going to be sending the wire harness to the trunk. So if we leave that red plug there, it's just going to be out of whack. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strip back the factory sheathing on the wire for red there. So as you can see, I got a razor blade, and I'm a little out of frame here, but I'm just taking the razor blade and cutting the sheathing for that red wire. And we're doing this because we want to run the red wire that's at the kind of the edge of the harness. We want to run it all the way back to the front where the relay is. So I'm just going to be cutting that with the razor blade, carefully not cutting any wires, and just stripping the sheathing back. So at this point in time, I've stripped off as much of that sheathing as I wanted to, and now I'm going to connect it back to the switch harness here. Now you can make a hard connection if you'd like, but I'm leaving it as factory here just for ease of use and accessibility for everyone. So now I'm going to cut this plastic zip tie here for the switch harness, and we're going to just unravel this. So the end of this harness is the green plug for the switch, and as you see, you can plug in right there, but we're not going to plug that in right now. So the harness is pretty much prepped for us to do our first modifications to it. And what we're going to do is this red wire that you see going into the fuse, into the relay, we don't need that to have this ring terminal on. So I'm just going to cut that off, and I'm going to strip the wire back like so. And I'm going to grab my mini add-a-fuse here, and you could cut the crimp terminal off and solder it in. I'm just going to be using butt connectors for this video, just to make it easier for everyone. If I was going to sell these harnesses, I would probably cut everything to length and solder it in and have it be like that. But I'm just going to use this butt connector on this aftermarket add-a-fuse. So I'm going to get my crimper, push the wire in, and crimp it on like that. I'm just going to give it a couple tugs to make sure it's secure. So this is going to be our 12 volt constant wire, this red wire here. Just keep that in mind for the future. And the next wire we're going to look for is this yellow wire. This yellow wire has a brown connector on it that doesn't connect to anything in the car. So I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to strip the wire back. And after stripping the wire back, I'm just going to make sure the wire is nice and secure, just twist it a little bit. And I'm going to grab another adafuse and just insert that wire into the adafuse and crimp it down. And then crimp it down just like this. And this wire is going to be our 12 volt switched wire. And at this point, the harness is pretty much almost ready to get fed into the car. But firstly, before we insert it into the car, I want to add in the fuses to these adapfuses. Now I don't have my mini blade fuses, I couldn't find them, so I'll just reuse these 215 amps. But we're going to be using a 7.5 amp and a 15 amp. So I'm just going to go back and change that in the future. But yeah, just insert these 15 amp fuses into the fuse holder, and we're almost ready to go into the car. Now at this point, if you'd like to prep the harness more, getting some Tesa tape or wire sheathing to put around all the other wires in the harness that don't have it, now would be a good time to do so. So before we do any fuse removal and adding, we're just going to disconnect the battery, so loosen up the ground and put it off to the side. So to route this harness as cleanly as possible, you're going to want to pop off all these plastics here that cover up the kick well and the side sills and all that stuff. They come off pretty easily. And then there's another panel here that covers the fuse box, and then one that goes under where your knees are. My car is missing that. And then to the back here, you're going to want to pop off where the seatbelt goes, and then there's this plastic trim, the footwell, and then this leather ear in the seat. There's one 10 mil holding that, and it slides off, and then the plastic shielding in the back there, a couple clips hold that in, and then the trunk liner, there's two clips holding that in, and then we'll just pull it back. And there's the plastic that covers the trunk hinge, and then the trunk mesh cloth, that's a couple clips holding that. So this part's a little hard to record, but basically taking the harness that goes to the fog light plugs, that's the thick part of the harness, I'm gonna route this into the underneath the trim panels. Then everything else will need to get shoved up into the fuse box area like I'm doing here. Now this might take a little while to get everything secured nicely in there, but if you just run all the wires one by one and make sure nothing's getting snagged on anything, you can kind of bunch everything up at the top and zip tie it in, and I'll show that in a little bit. So now we're in the fuse box area here. Take your needle nose pliers and remove the 7.5 amp accessory fuse and the 15 amp FR accessory socket fuse out of the fuse box and place it into the respective adafuse holders that we worked on earlier. So the 7.5 will go into the yellow switch 12 volt, and the 15 amp will go into the red constant 12 volt. And it'll look like how this pictured here when you're done. And here's a video showing the harness after I've installed it. I kind of jumbled the wires up and zip tied it in place, but this is almost everything underneath the dash. Last thing we're gonna have to do is take a 10mm bolt that came in the kit, and there's this dash bar here that has nothing on it. So we're gonna take that little ground eyelet and the 10mm bolt and then secure it up like I have it here and make sure it's tight. And this is a better look at how I have the harness routed. And this is the last thing we're going to be doing at the front of the car here. So pop up your fuse panel like I did here, then squeeze the two tabs on the blank switch, and then get your new switch and just push it in the slot like that. And this switch kind of has a problem where it sticks. I'm going to take it out and adjust it further, but for now it'll work. And we're going to take the edge of the harness that has the green plug on it, and we're going to route it underneath the dash and just kind of fish it through the dash and grab it from the top here like I'm doing here. And then once you grab it, you could just slot it into the switch and then push the panel back in. And then with that, we've completed everything at the front of the car. Now we're at the back of the car. Grab your 7440 pigtail, and you'll see one tab that goes to the bottom here. To complete 180 of that, completely chop that off with your wire snipper, just like that. Trim a little, make sure it's completely flat. And then the one directly next to it, you want to cut off about half of that. So just like that, trim it by half. And if we don't do this, it won't fit into the light. We're going to have to extend the harness. I'm going to use the red wire that came with the fog light kit as an extension harness. So cut off that end and then strip it back. And then I'm going to get a butt connector. So it's going to be about 4 feet, 3 to 4 feet of wire. So the red wire we're going to use from the that came in the harness. And then I had some black wire that was a similar gauge that was left over. It doesn't really matter too much, but you want to probably have it to be the same length. So I'm going to match the red wire up to the red wire on the 7440 pigtail, and then I'm going to strip the black one up here. Just put the butt connector on it, like I'm doing here. I'm just gonna crimp it down. And then I'm going to crimp that end to the green wire in the 744 harness, like this here. So these wires here, I'm just going to run it through the back of the trunk alongside the other wiring, and then we're going to meet up in the back seat like this here. So now we're going to join the harness together, and at this point there's 3 wires going to be back here, a black wire, another black wire with the eyelet for the ground, and then the white wire. I'm going to strip the white wire, and then we're going to crimp that together with the red wire coming from the trunk. So now we're going to get the red wire that I just ran through, and I'm going to chop the end off and strip the wires back. And we're going to connect the red wire to the white wire right here. So make sure those go in properly, push it in, and I'm going to get the crimper and crimp the other end. Just crimp it there like this, and give it a little shake. Yep, good. And the next wire is the black wire that we ran from the back there. We're gonna get the black wire we cut, and we're gonna strip this back. And we're gonna crimp the butt connector onto this wire here. And then we're gonna grab the other black wire at the harness side, strip this back, and we're going to crimp the black wire to the black wire with the butt connector. And crimp it just like that. So that's pretty much the whole harness connected together, except for the last ground wire with the eyelet. I'm just going to put it under the seat bolt, which is a 12. So just loosen that up, push the wire in, and close it up. The other fog light connection, you can cut it off, tape it up, or however you want to put it. Just make sure it's out of the way. And finally, we're on to installing the actual fog light. So there are 3 8mm nuts and a kind of a long castle nut. Those need to come out, so just loosen them out and make sure you don't drop them inside the trunk. I just recommend breaking them free with a ratchet, and then loosen them out by hand. And then while you're doing that, you can unhook the 2 wires that are going to the taillight bulbs, And the black wire you see there going to the brake light, you want to keep that harness the same. And the light might be hard to get out if it's never been out before, but it'll come out. And we're just gonna get our left-hand drive fog and push it in and make sure the seal is good. We're gonna plug the brake light back up and install the 8mm nuts back to the same orientation they came out from, just like I'm doing here, and just tighten them down with a wrench. You don't want to use an impact for here because these studs will snap and it'll be very hard to secure the taillight in. So next, get a zip tie and the reverse light wire. You could just tuck it back up into the trunk and zip tie it into place. So these are the extension wires we ran. I kind of just loosely zip tied them in place going along the other wire harness, just running it up the trunk hinge all the way up to the factory brake light harness. So I put the 744 bulb in the bulb holder, and we're just going to insert it into the socket for the bulb and twist it in place and secure it tightly, just like that, and it's installed. And at this point you can connect the battery to the car and test to make sure the fog light works. And once you've confirmed it does, you can put all the trim and the back seat and everything back together, and that should be it. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and have a good one everybody.